The modern world is loud. Traffic, notifications, chatter, sirens, engines, a constant hum that rarely goes quiet. Silence, true silence, has become a luxury few of us ever truly experience. But what if you could spend a day somewhere where the world itself goes quiet? No buzzing phones, no background noise, not even the wind whispering through trees. That question led me on a journey to discover the world's quietest places. Not just soundproof rooms or luxury spas, but natural environments and cultural spaces where silence isn't manufactured, it's part of the landscape. For 24 hours at a time, I immersed myself in silence in 4 profoundly different environments: a desert in Namibia, a forest in Finland, a remote monastery in Bhutan, and the anechoic chamber at Orfield Labs in the United States. Each location taught me something new about the power of quiet, the challenge of being alone with your thoughts, and the extraordinary peace that can be found when the world stops making noise. In a time where every second is filled with sensory input, finding places where sound fades away is not just a novelty, it's a necessity. Namibia. Silence in the sands of the Namib Desert. Namibia's Namib Desert is one of the oldest and driest deserts in the world. It stretches across vast, empty landscapes where even the air feels still. I ventured into the heart of the desert near Soundless, far from any tourist path or village. My guide dropped me off in the early afternoon with basic supplies, a tent, and a satellite phone for emergencies. Almost immediately, I felt the absence, not just of people, but of motion. There were no trees, no birds, no insects, just sand, dunes, and sky. At first, it was unsettling. My ears strained for any hint of sound. Occasionally, a faint breeze would swirl, but otherwise, it was like being suspended in a vacuum. Even my own breath and heartbeat seemed too loud. Time slowed, without noise or distraction. Minutes felt like hours. I journaled, stared at the dunes, and listened to the silence as though it were a living thing. The heat intensified the stillness, and I found myself whispering aloud just to break the tension. When night fell, the stars exploded across the sky in an uninterrupted canvas, and I realized that this silence wasn't empty, it was full of presence. It forced me inward. Thoughts I had buried for weeks surfaced in the calm. I felt simultaneously exposed and connected. Silence can strip you down to your essence. Without distractions, you're forced to face your thoughts and your peace. Finland. Deep forest stillness in Lapland. In the far north of Finland, deep in the forests of Lapland, I found another kind of silence. This was not the absence of life, but the muffled hush of a snow-covered world. I stayed in a minimalist cabin with no electricity or running water, surrounded by dense pine and birch trees. Snow has a way of swallowing sound. Stepping outside, the crunch of my boots was the only audible thing. The trees stood motionless. Even the birds were few and far between. The wind moved so gently, it barely rustled the branches. I chopped wood, boiled water from snow, and read by firelight. Even mundane tasks took on a meditative rhythm. The silence here was not oppressive, it was nurturing. The forest did not demand anything. It just existed, quietly, patiently. I noticed things I would normally miss. The pattern of frost on a window, the rhythm of breath in the cold, the sound of water boiling becoming its own soundtrack. Lying in bed, I listened to nothing. No cars, no buzzing lights, no distant voices, just a cocoon of pure quiet. And then, around 3 a.m., the sky lit up with green. The northern lights danced in total silence, like a private performance for anyone awake enough to notice. Not all silence is isolation. In the forest, quiet connects you to nature on an intimate level. It's not loneliness, it's a different kind of presence. Bhutan. Inner silence in a Himalayan monastery. For the final leg of my quiet quest, I traveled to Bhutan, a country that measures success not by GDP, but by gross national happiness. In a remote monastery tucked into the Himalayan foothills, I took part in a 24-hour silent retreat alongside a group of monks. The silence here wasn't just environmental, it was spiritual. From the moment we entered the monastery, speaking ceased. Communication happened through gestures and glances. We meditated, ate, and walked in complete silence. The first few hours were difficult. I hadn't realized how much I used words to distract myself. My mind raced. I thought about home, emails, things I should be doing. But slowly, the thoughts began to slow. I breathed. I sat. I observed. I became aware of my internal noise and how loud it had been. At one point, I sat outside on a stone ledge overlooking the mountains. Not a sound, not a bird, not a breeze, just my breath, the pulse in my ears, and the steady silence of a world that has known peace far longer than I have. I understood then why monks dedicate their lives to stillness. True silence is internal. The world can be quiet, but unless your mind joins it, the peace remains incomplete. Silence became a mirror, reflecting not only calm but clarity. USA. The anechoic chamber at Orfield Labs. In stark contrast to nature's vast silences, I visited the quietest man-made place on Earth, the anechoic chamber at Orfield Labs in Minnesota, USA. This room is so silent, it holds a Guinness World Record. Inside, the decibel level is measured at 9.4 dBA below the threshold of human hearing. Entering it was a surreal experience. The chamber is designed to absorb 99.99% of sound using wedge-shaped foam on all 6 sides. The moment the door closed, the air changed. I could hear my heartbeat, my eyelids blinking, even the slight pop of my joints as I shifted. It was more than quiet, it was disorienting. Standing was difficult. Without sound bouncing back, spatial awareness diminishes. Many people can't last more than 30 minutes. I lasted 45. It was not relaxing, it was intense, almost unnatural. But it proved something profound. We are creatures of sound. Total silence, like total darkness, rewires our perception. And yet, it was a fascinating counterpoint to the natural quiet I had experienced elsewhere. This silence was not peaceful, it was clinical, even eerie. Why we need quiet more than ever. Spending 24 hours in these places taught me that silence is not an absence. It's a presence of awareness, of stillness, of self. In our connected lives, silence has become synonymous with emptiness or boredom. But these places prove the opposite. Without noise, your brain recalibrates. Thoughts settle. Emotions rise to the surface and dissipate. When the world is quiet, you hear your inner voice more clearly. The smell of the forest, the texture of sand, the flicker of firelight, everything becomes more vivid. Your senses, no longer overwhelmed by noise, begin to sharpen. You start to notice the details. Silence has a healing quality. It's not passive, it's active renewal. The more time I spent in silence, the more I came to value the simple act of listening, not to others, but to myself and the environment around me. Tips for finding silence in your life. You don't have to fly to Namibia or hike into Lapland to find silence. You can cultivate quiet in small, intentional ways. Take a walk without your phone. Practice 10 minutes of meditation a day. Designate 1 hour of no talking at home. Visit local parks early in the morning. Create a screen-free zone in your house. Make time for silence, not as an escape, but as a return. Read a book in a quiet corner. Turn off all background noise for an hour. Watch a sunrise. Breathe deeply and let your mind settle. Silence isn't about rejecting the world. It's about rebalancing within it. It's in those quiet moments that we often hear the answers we've been seeking. The sound of stillness. I set out to find the quietest places on Earth and ended up finding parts of myself I didn't know were buried beneath the noise. Each location offered a unique flavor of silence. The vast stillness of the desert, the nurturing hush of the forest, the spiritual discipline at the monastery, and the haunting stillness of the anechoic chamber. Together, they taught me that silence isn't something you chase. It's something you allow. You clear space for it. You listen for it. And when you do, you find that it's been waiting for you all along. In silence, we reconnect with the world, with each other, and with ourselves. In an age of endless noise, choosing silence is one of the most radical acts of self-care and awareness. We spend so much time trying to be heard, but sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply listen. If this journey into quiet resonated with you, tap like, hit subscribe, and share this with someone who could use the pause. Have you found your own pocket of peace somewhere on Earth? Comment below. We are always listening. Because sometimes, the loudest revelations come in the quietest moments. See you with the next video.